Hey guys, remember when Elon Musk tweeted out and said, "Hey everybody, give me $8, you'll get that Twitter check, Twitter blue." It turns out he wasn't exactly telling the truth. If you're an Apple user, it's going to be $11 if you're on iOS. True story. You are going to get some benefits on this thing. You're going to get some video access. You get some early access to special features. One thing that's really interesting though, it's not going to cut ads. You're only getting to see half the ads. So when I saw that, I'm just like, I don't know who, and this is real, guys. Like when you pay for a service, be it, Netflix, be it YouTube, because you can pay for premium YouTube, be it Twitter. I think people usually want to get rid of ads. So we'll see how well that goes, and also see how well it goes that paying $11 for said service that's supposed to be $8 for other people. We'll see if people go with that. And if you're interested in business, I think it's always fun to track this story. I know it's always a crazy and wild story, this whole Elon Musk Twitter thing, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned. Now, this is one that's quite interesting. There's been so many leaks coming out of the company. We get emails that are internal. We get sort of conference calls that have been recorded internal, all these sort of things. And Elon is saying, if you are leaking, you're going to be fired. And this is sort of a threat that he told everybody. However, to be fair, I'm actually with Elon on this one. If employees did in fact sign an NDA, meaning that, business meetings or internal documents are supposed to be private, then yes, you are breaking company policy, and yes, you're risking your job. So right there, I'm with Elon on that one. However, this does continue to be a circus, and I do enjoy sharing it with you. So I hope employees keep leaking stuff, so please leak so that we can share. One thing I think is interesting, though, is that the more that we've been digging into this sort of Twitter stuff, I was thinking about this, and this was an article that was just recently as well, and it was kind of talking about Facebook's content policy and also to Twitter's content policy. Now, one of the things that we learned from internal documents regarding Twitter a while ago, the basic gist of it was like 90% of the traffic on Twitter is basically following like 15% of the quote Twitter stars. So basically, stars sort of drive traffic, right? I tune in the Twitter to see what Elon Musk has to say, and that's about it, right? I don't go there to see what Joe Blow on the street has to say, that kind of thing. I want to hear what stars have to say. And one thing that's quite interesting when you relate that to Facebook is that when it comes to content moderation, social media companies like a Facebook tend to want to promote their big stars to get more traffic to be driven to it. However, one of the things that happens with this sort of thing is, what if one of your big stars starts tweeting out stuff or putting stuff on Facebook, for example, on social media that is a bit inappropriate. So this is an example of one. This is a complicated story. I don't want to go too deep into it, but the basic gist of it is, what if a star has intimate relations with a person and then puts said pictures on there and then gets 58 million views, that kind of thing, right? This creates all kind of problems for a social media company when your stars are doing things that you're kind of unsure about. The other thing is too, obviously, the whole situation with Trump. Now, I've read through all these articles, and my basic opinion on it is people are going to believe what they want to believe. This is very real. If you're a conservative, you're going to believe that Twitter is totally against you, that they're against free speech, and the whole world is against you. That's what you're going to believe, and that's fine. If you are against Trump, you're going to believe that they should censor Trump, they should, not promote his stuff, they should ban his account, and that's what you believe, and that's fine. So there's not really going to be anything from the Twitter files that's going to probably convince one person one way or the other, and that's my opinion on that. The other thing is, too, regarding Twitter, there was a lawsuit against them. I guess it's like a private jet. They're saying you owe us a couple $100,000. We'll see if anything comes from that. And, one of the things that I think is so fun about talking about this is I know there's a lot of people out there that just want to talk about free speech, free speech, free speech. But for me personally, I just think it's fascinating to look at the internal, makings of a social media company. Because if you ever saw that movie Social Network, and if you haven't, you should definitely watch it. It's fun. It's like an insert, and it's, who knows the complete truth of that, but it does take a look a little bit at Mark Zuckerberg and the team and how they got started, this kind of stuff. But, this the idea of sort of like, what are the challenges that you have when you run certain companies? And one of the biggest problems is like the content that gets put on there. Sometimes it's robots, sometimes it's spam, sometimes adult content, all kinds of stuff that may or may not be appropriate depending on what kind of platform you want to run. And it was interesting because I was looking at this article here, and this was regarding LinkedIn. And this is the reason why I bring this up, just to give you some sort of idea, because whenever you get data from these kind of companies, it's really fascinating. But the basic gist of it is, guys, even on LinkedIn, they get like a whole bunch of fake accounts getting made all the time. And I can tell you, I'm on LinkedIn, and you may be on it as well. I get people trying to sell me stuff quite a bit, so it is a real thing. And whether or not these are real people or not, who knows? But evidently, they were saying here that there were like 16.4 million, users trying to make fake accounts on the platform. The other thing is too, as well, we're talking about LinkedIn here, but just giving you a general sense of the kind of stuff that social media companies have to deal with. They're saying there was a bunch of posts that were removed on LinkedIn. So that was 178,000, harassment or abusive. You have about 172 misinformation. You have violent content sometimes, 60,000, hateful or derogatory, 37,000 posts, adult posts, and child exploitation posts. So this is not just a problem for Twitter alone. And I understand that some people are all about free speech, but I'm just showing you some categories to ask yourself, do you believe that everything should be allowed on Twitter or not? I in the camp of that, there's got to be some sort of policies. And as a user of said companies, one thing, and this is also too, full disclosure, which I really dislike about LinkedIn lately, maybe in the last, I don't know, year or so, there's just been increasingly more and more political content on there, which I'm not thrilled about, because when I go to LinkedIn, I kind of just want to see business or job related content, right? Not necessarily just overtly political stuff. Now, unfortunately, we live in a world where even, business can be overtly political, as I just posted a video yesterday, how, or not yesterday, just a few hours ago, I should say, but just how people are getting so enamored with whether or not, a company's woke or not, and whether or not we should be investing in said company or not. It makes the world very, very messy, because I think it's a really complicated issue. The other thing too, which regarding this kind of stuff is, what to believe anymore. And I try my best to show you guys like the actual numbers and actual things like that. And here's a great example. And I can understand that people can believe what they want to believe, but I just want to show you in a simple example. So one thing that's really interesting is that this is just recently, Elon Musk is attacking Yoel Roth. And I've described him in the past as being Elon Musk's a right-hand man, and I stick by that because this is a real thing. When Yoel Roth used to work at Twitter, he's since quit, he would actually run community within the Twitter organization, like him and Elon Musk would sort of be the head of like forum kind of things. And Yoel used to be a head of like, I think it was trust and safety, as it was his position. He was the head of it. Elon, Yoel, and I all went to the same school, University of Pennsylvania. And it was actually really a surprise when Yoel quit. I actually was really surprised. I just figured he would just be there and try to help out Elon. And Yoel used to like tweet all of these positive things about Twitter when Elon took over, to try to like, how can I say, give people confidence that things are operating well. So Yoel has since quit, and now Elon's been attacking him, and this is just recently. And the attack is basically trying to claim that Yoel is all about youth having access to adult content, essentially. This is, Elon's own tweets. It says, looks like Yoel is arguing in favor of children being able to access adult internet services in his PhD thesis. So I guess we're looking through his old PhD thesis now. I'll read it to you guys, and you can decide for yourself if you think Elon is being truthful or not here. So this is what we're talking about. So we're talking about Grindr. I think Grindr is like the gay dating app. I think that's what it is. Okay. We'll just go through it here. But it's worth considering how, and this is from Yoel Roth, and remember, Elon's using this to attack Yoel. But it's worth considering how, if at all, the current generation of popular sites of gay network sociability might fit into an overall queer social landscape that has increasingly includes individuals under age 18, right? So we're talking about on Grindr, there are people who are under 18 that have access to the site, okay? And this is from Yoel's thesis, right, or dissertation. Even with the service's extensive content management, Grindr may well be too lewd or too hookup oriented to be safe and age appropriate, a resource for teenagers, right? So literally, Yoel is saying that there are kids on, under 18 on Grindr, but it may be too lewd and too inappropriate for them. But then he says, but the fact that people under 18 are on these services already indicates that we can't readily dismiss these platforms out of hand as low-key for queer youth culture. So we know there's adult content on these things. We know that kids probably shouldn't be looking at this stuff, but they're already on the platform. So what do? This is how I read this. I'm just reading it with you guys. Then it says, rather than merely trying to absolve themselves of legal responsibility, or worse, trying to drive out teenagers entirely, Service providers should instead focus on crafting safety strategies that can accommodate a wide variety of use cases for platforms like Grindr, including possibly the role in safely connecting queer young adults. So this is how I read this, and I'm literally just reading the exact language of this thing, and this is what Elon is tweeting out to attack Yole. When I read this, it sounds like to me is he's saying if you're Grindr and you're a dating site for gay adults essentially, and you have kids are accessing their sites, you can kick them off, which is one thing, but it's maybe hard to do, right? And he's also saying, instead of that, maybe we should just try to create, literally saying here, they should instead focus on crafting safety strategies that accommodate a wide variety of use cases, right? So maybe you can figure out a way to safely have these users on there, and I'm just reading right here. Maybe that is safely letting them safely connect with other people who are like them. Now they're referring to you. So I find this really, really, how can I say, misleading the way that Elon tweets out this particular post that's saying that Yole is in favor of children being able to access adult internet services, because that's not how I read this at all. And I just read it with you guys. And you guys can tell me if I read this incorrectly. It was interesting too as well, is when you read like all the responses to Elon Musk's, Twitter post here, a bunch of people are on my side and say, Elon, what are you talking about? That's exactly what it doesn't say. And then there's people who just follow Elon no matter what. So this is the situation of like, people just believe what they want to believe regardless of what anything says. And it's weird, the world that we live in. Here's the language for yourself. And also too, we're taking a small passage of a dissertation that could be 300 pages for all we know. I'm pretty sure that Yole would not be in favor of, children access to adult stuff being the head of safety content on Twitter. But you guys can make up your own decision. And again, unfortunately, we live in a world where people decide what they want, regardless of anything. And I just read it, and I don't see what Elon's talking about here. I don't see it. I'm literally reading this myself. So that's just an example. You guys can decide for yourself. Also, too, other stuff going on with Twitter as well. Yeah, Elton John is leaving the platform, but you're going to hear stars come and go. Kind of what's fun about watching, and I'm just calling it the train wreck, is you have the content moderation stuff, which all Elon's fans are all about, right? Go for it. I'll be curious if how many of you are going to give him the $8 or $11 if you're iOS. For me, I'm actually quite interested in the business aspect of it. And also, too, to be fair, what many people have said is say, hey, Chris, if you can fire 75% of the company and the thing functions really, really well, what does that say about tech companies? Is it a possibility that tech companies have way overhired and they can function, much slimmer than before? Maybe they can, and that's actually going to be the interesting part to see, because Twitter hasn't crashed yet. To be fair, right? It totally hasn't crashed yet. But there are going to be other concerns to be watching. Like for example, 3 people who are on the safety council, I guess, of Twitter decided to quit. They wrote a statement about that. It was kind of interesting because the basic idea is they're claiming that hate speech has gone up on Twitter. And this is in contrast where Elon Musk was saying like hate speech is going down. He's basically trying to tell people that. The headline here is saying something a little bit different. They're saying Elon's Twitter won't censor hate speech, it won't boost it either. But Elon is trying to make the case that you can have free speech and not necessarily be overwhelming on Twitter. Advertisers are disagreeing, of course, as we know advertisers are pulling out. And the one lesson I want you guys to think about, and sort of my personal view on this whole situation, is if I'm running a big company, if I'm running $1 billion company, I want to attract the best talent available. So I want you guys to write in the comments if you agree or disagree with my fundamental thesis that I want to attract the best talent available, okay? On top of that, I want to create an environment in my company where people are welcome to work and be themselves. Now, this is a very, very interesting issue because, for example, let's say you have an employee who's gay, right? It could be a woman who's homosexual or a man who's homosexual, right? Either one. And let's say, for example, they like to have hairstyles that are different than what is the quote social norm. And I say quote social norm because, right, depending on which era you're in, Sometimes long hair for men is attractive, right? Depending which era, right? Long time ago, if you watch all these old movies of like, say in Roman times, maybe long hair is really cool. Just for example, Jesus had long hair, for example. But maybe, in the future, say 1950s, then suddenly, men are only supposed to have short hair, and that's what's cool. And it could go the reverse for the other ones where women are only supposed to have, long hair, and if women have short hair, they're called all kinds of names. So just give me an example. So I myself, though, want to have the best talent and want to be attractive to that. And if a particular programmer or something wants to have whatever hairstyle that they want to have, so be it. That is my opinion on that. But it goes much deeper than just hairstyles. It can go all kinds of things, right? So the tricky part of it, though, is that if you're going to have said company, what if you have some employees harassing other employees, right? For any number of reasons. And so this is a situation to where you don't necessarily want to have a company where that is conducive of harassment. Now, certainly in the past, you would certainly have companies, be it on Wall Street, be it in Hollywood. This is very real, where men would sexually harass women, right? And I get it, guys. And we're living today's society where there's males out there that think that stuff never happens. But I can just tell you, these things happen, and I'm not making stuff up. And so this is part of the challenge of living in a modern world, right? To where people are more free to be themselves, opposed in the past when they was essentially just literally just stay in the closet, right? And people are going to be unfortunately kind of cruel to other people about that. I've said several times on my channel, I don't shy away from this particular issue because I think it's an important one. I was a professor for many, many years, and I can just tell you, I'm just talking about like one facet of it, but the basic gist of it is like you want to create a classroom or a business to be conducive to all people. And yes, I do understand it becomes very, very uncomfortable for some people who are against other types of people. And like, they feel like, well, in my home, we don't, like gay people, for example, or we don't like other religions, for example. And it's weird for me to like not say that you other religion are a cult and you other religion are wrong, right? This is a part of learning to get along with each other. And part of, like, I think it's important that we live with each other, right? And obviously, we're talking about things that aren't solved that easily just in a particular company, because you still have countries in the world that fight each other over said religion. It's not religion now, right? We're talking about all kinds of things. So I hope you guys understand my overall point of view on this and why we do talk about these issues. Because again, if I'm a CEO of a company, I want to attract the best talent available. Also, too, I believe having said best talent will make for a better company and hence make more profit. So if you disagree with that notion, please let me know. But I think that's the way to go. And also, too, if I'm going to have a company, I want to be able to recruit as large of a population as possible and not only go after one kind of employee. Another way to think about this as well, if I want to have a company and also be innovative, I want to have as sort of like different ideas in the room. And sometimes if people only come from a certain kind of background, maybe they get used to groupthink and only have one way of thinking. It is good to have different multiple people in the room, and smart people can come from any background. It can be from any state in the USA, could be from any country in the world, could be speaking sometimes different languages. So unfortunately, I think we do live in a world, though, where there are some people who have not had exposure to different groups of people and are not used to it. I can just tell you guys, and I mentioned this several times, it's a real thing. I served in the United States military. I believe that people in the USA can get along from all 50 states, can work together just fine. That's what the military does. They force you to do it. They basically make everyone wear the same clothes. You do that. I've been to colleges that are very, very international, and you learn to work with people all around the world. And I've run my classroom and any kind of business venture roughly the same. So, that's why I think it's fun to watch this stuff. I do think, though, it is a real thing, though, that some people sort of basically disregard the feelings of other people, and that is a problem. And also, too, I understand, right? That's sort of why I address these as fairly as best as I can. I understand that there are some people who are conservative and they feel like that their points of views are being squelched. I totally get it. And we're in this kind of weird situation of where, like, what is considered appropriate language or not. So again, I'll repeat my initial statement, and I want you guys to think about how can you, as an individual out there, run your company that attracts the best talent that you can possibly get, and also to run your company in a way that people feel free to express their ideas, and having said best talent makes your company profitable and innovative and all these things that we're going for. So I hope you guys understand what I'm saying, and I do appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.